So before we move into SOFR hedging, I mean, I know it's not directly relevant to you. I know why is this transition happened? Why did it happen? Because LIBOR was a rate which was in the interbank market primarily, which was a rate which was reflecting the interbank borrowing and lending cost. So as different banks used to borrow and lend to each other, this LIBOR was a benchmark which was kind of measuring that borrowing and lending cost within the banking system. Now, the point here is LIBOR, one important point which I think is relevant to even corporates to understand the SOFR part of it, is that LIBOR actually is reflecting the interbank risks, in the sense that, for example, if there is a sudden liquidity crunch or if there is a tightness in the dollar liquidity, suddenly the LIBOR will go up, even though the interest rates in the economy as given by the FOMC or any of the central banks is still low. The LIBOR used to shoot up just because there is a liquidity tightness. Similarly, if there is a perceived credit issue, that means generally there is a panic in the market, even at that time LIBOR used to go up, whereas the actual interest rates in the as per the central banks, the basic overnight rate is still low, zero. For example, in 2020, when Federal Reserve cut interest rates to zero because of COVID lockdowns, the LIBOR continued to be high at 1.25%. So there was a massive gap between what the overnight rate was, which is 0%, and LIBOR, which was 1.25%. Why? Because there was a sense of panic. There was a sense of panic around what the liquidity tight situation will be, how the lockdown will help, what kind of impact will there be on the banks and economy. So all of that panic was reflected in the LIBOR rates. Now, this is an important factor. Now, what happened was, because LIBOR was seen to be manipulative, rather prone to manipulation, I would say, the regulators felt that LIBOR should not be the benchmark rate for global borrowing and lending. So let it be dismantled, and in space of that, they wanted a risk-free rate. Now, risk-free rate is basically a rate in that economy which is completely devoid of any risk, right? Typically, for example, in India, MIBOR, for example, is a rate which is overnight borrowing rate with overnight rate between two banks. Now, generally, overnight rates are completely risk-free, right? There's not much credit risk in that. Similarly, in the US, there are some risk-free rates. In every economy, there are risk-free rates like this. So, risk-free rate was basically sought to be introduced, and also rates which are derived from the market trading. For example, LIBOR was not a rate which was derived from market information. LIBOR used to be kind of polled between banks. Banks used to be asked, what is your lending and borrowing rate? And the transactions which were happening in the interbank market were not too many, based on which LIBOR was getting derived. So they felt that the rate at the new rates that are going to be transitioned should be those which come from deeply traded markets. Right, so they wanted those kind of benchmark rates. So the transition happened. Right, this was the plan. LIBOR got to be moved out.